Good morning, everybody. Let's do a sound check. If anybody can comment and let me know if the sound is working. It's a beautiful day, a beautiful weekend, but if I don't hear the sound, if you hear the sound, Anita, good morning. I see you made a comment. If anybody can just let me know if the sound is working, and then we will proceed. No? All those on Facebook, where are you? Let me go on my Facebook, see what's going on there. Good. All right. I hear the sound. I see the sound, or I see that you hear the sound. So good morning, everyone. What a gorgeous weekend it is, and what a gorgeous day it is today. And hopefully this is a sign to come. I know the weather's going to get a little iffy, but hopefully the sunshine and the warmth will bring up everybody's spirit and let us move through another week of our new temporary reality. But as we discussed yesterday in our class, that there is no such thing as a temporary reality. Every day is reality for that day. And therefore, we need to make sure to make every day something valuable, not just a holding pattern for tomorrow. Before we begin, I want to announce our winner from last night's J-Text, Judy Feiner. Congratulations. J-Text is our bi-weekly, twice a week, Sunday and Wednesday at 7 o'clock. You receive a text with a question, and the seventh person who answers wins. That's exciting. It's easy questions or informative questions. And if you sign up at jewishcenter.info JText, all the information is there. It's not only informative, it's not only exciting, but it's also an experience where you connect with over 50, I think it's close to 60 people in the community at a particular time studying together. So jewishcenter.info, JText. Today, we're going to share a very, very powerful story. From the first time I heard the story, it had a very, very strong impact on me. And I'd like to share that with you. As we mentioned last week, Monday morning, it's the beginning of a new week, we had a strong jolt. So I'd like to share with you a very powerful story. It's a story that is actually in connection to our sermon on Friday, and you can still rewatch it at jewishcenter.info/sermon or somewhere on the Facebook Live feed on my page. But we discussed there a very important topic of the fact that there is a relationship that we have with our Almighty Creator. And every human being has that relationship, regardless if we recognize it or not, regardless if we're aware of it or not. And even if it may be dormant within us for many years, it is always there, and God is patiently waiting and visiting us and making sure that we're able to connect on that level. This story takes us back to the Holocaust. And at that time, there was a large group of Polish Jewish women that were being gathered to be taken to the concentration camps. And it wasn't just that they were being gathered in the middle of town, but to add salt to the wound, the evil Nazi officers announced to all the people that were standing, it was like a spectacle. It says, ladies and gentlemen, as the Jews leave town, you are free to take anything that belongs to them because they're not coming back. So imagine, not only were they being taken away, and not only were they being lost and stripped of everything that they owned, but now it's going to go into their neighbors, and they're basically being shown as disposable, invaluable human beings. And as the Jewish people are being gathered, the Jewish women being gathered, at the end of the line was a woman that was coming, that came with a very big fur, expensive coat. And there's two Polish bystanders that noticed that coat, and they were not going to wait for the Jews to leave to get the booty. They had their eyes on that coat. They figured, let's get it before anybody else has a chance. So they go to the back of the line, they knock the woman down, they knock her out, they beat her up, and strip this beautiful, gorgeous coat off her and run away with it. There's a lot of stuff in that coat. And in the quiet spot, they lay the coat down on the ground, and they start feeling. And in this coat is all this woman's great treasures and possessions. her gold jewelry, her silver candlesticks, a bunch of other heirlooms that she had from her family. And they start taking out one by one. And then they're ready to divide the coat, and they pick it up and they realize there's still something very heavy in there. It's not your typical fur coat. And they search around, and then they see there's a pocket. And in that pocket, they take out a very heavy object. A child, a little baby. This woman's little baby was hidden in her coat. And now she became the possession of two Polish women. They didn't know what to do with this child. One of the women said, listen, I'm old. I cannot have any more children. Why don't I take the child and you take everything else? The two ladies had an agreement. One Polish woman took the child. The other woman took everything else. And Nebuch, this Jewish woman, was left without her child and off to the camps. This Jewish child, this Jewish girl, was not raised as a Jew, as you can understand. She was a bright child. She went to school. She, in fact, became a very, very popular pediatrician in Poland, taking care of many, many children. Many years passed, and her mother, her fake mother, her Polish mother, the one who took her in, dies. And a week later, she hears a knock on her door. Knock, knock. She opens up, and there's another older, elderly Polish woman. And she invites herself in and sits down with this woman, this pediatrician, this little Jewish girl who didn't know she was Jewish. And she tells her the story. And she says, I want you to know that your mother is not your real mother. And begins to tell her what happened. This woman's in shock. Her whole life, she was brought up as a Polish woman, knowing that this is her mother. And she didn't believe this woman. She says, well, I want you to know I'm her sister. And when we found you, you were wearing a beautiful golden necklace with a little pendant on it. And I'm sure your mother kept it. So go check her jewelry. And if you find it, you'll know that my story I'm telling you is true. The woman leaves. The elderly woman leaves. And this pediatrician, this Polish doctor, is stunned. She's in shock. She right away goes through her mom's jewelry box and, in fact, finds that pendant that had a bunch of Hebrew words on it that she knew nothing about. This was very precious to her. She made a nice necklace out of it and didn't make much of it. She goes on with her life. And then she's once taking a trip abroad. She left Poland and she meets two Lubavitch students who are there on a summer mission in this European country to help teach Jewish people about their Jewishness. She realizes they must be Jewish. So she goes to them and shows them the pendant and asks, do you recognize these words? They look at it and say, yes, that's the name, that's a Jewish name. And she starts to tell her the story. And this whole idea of this Jewish name and these words and communicating with these rabbinical students starts to evoke so many emotional feelings within her that by the time they're done, she asks, well, what can I do about this? What am I supposed to do? My whole life I was brought up as a non-Jew, as a Polish woman. And you're telling me I'm really a Jew? How do I deal with this? They didn't know what to answer her. They said, we can't answer you. But there's a rabbi in Brooklyn, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Send him a letter. Tell him your story. We're sure he'll be able to direct you. She writes a story to the Rebbe. She writes the whole letter, her story in a letter to the Rebbe. And very quickly, she gets a response from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe tells her that she is a Jewish soul who may have been brought up in a non-Jewish environment. It's advisable that she take her talent, her expertise in the medical field, and move to Israel, where there'll be a supporting environment for both her and a need for her services. She reflected upon this advice and, in fact, moved to Israel, was accepted as a Jew based on her story and the pendant, married, raised a nice family. Fast forward a number of years. On August 9th, 2001, almost 19 years ago, there's a tragedy that occurred in Jerusalem. A tragedy that took the life of 13 people and wounded 130 others. That was the bombing at the Sbarro pizza shop. The pizza shop and the bombing that we spoke about last week. And these stories are very meaningful to me because I was in Jerusalem during the bombing of the Sbarro pizza shop. And to hear all these things that were going on while I was there is fascinating. And so she was taking a walk, this woman, this pediatrician, was taking a walk with her husband as the bombing took place, just blocks away. She tells her husband, honey, you go home, let me rush to the scene, maybe I can be of help. And in fact, her heart went out to all the people and she helped the people at the scene. She followed some of them to the hospital. And as she enters the hospital, she sees an elderly gentleman who's distraught, who's panicking. And she goes over to him and says, Adoni, how can I help you? She says, my granddaughter was in the pizza shop and I can't find her. She's all I have left from the Holocaust. I need to find my granddaughter. She was in the pizza shop. The doctor asks, well, let's go look for your granddaughter. How can we find her? Gives her all identifying signs. And she says she has a little gold necklace that has a pendant on it with her name on it. You could go find her if she has that. And they go from room to room. And finally they find this young woman. As our Polish pediatrician who now came to Israel sees the pendant on this patient in the hospital, she sees it's identical to her own, the one that she's wearing. Wow, this is fascinating. She goes over to the gentleman who is by that column and says, where can you buy these? Where did you buy these pendants for your granddaughter? He turns to her and says, I didn't buy these. I am a goldsmith. I made that pendant by myself. And I made 2 pendants for 2 of my daughters. This daughter here in the hospital is the daughter of my daughter who survived the Holocaust. She's the closest thing to me. My other daughter was killed in the Holocaust, and there's no remembrance of her. She's lost forever. At that point, this pediatrician freezes and shows this gentleman her necklace. And he freezes because he realizes that not only is his granddaughter he knew was alive, still alive, but he has finally connected with a granddaughter, the child of his daughter that was dead. That's an amazing story. It's a story with so many different messages, so many different lessons. To me, a lesson is that 2 lessons. One is there's so many things that are going on in this world. We never see the whole picture, but we have to have faith that what happens is it has a purpose, has a meaning. Sometimes you find yourself in the dramatic scene of that grandfather reuniting with his granddaughter as a result of a golden pendant. But had there not been a bombing, they would have never known. We must keep faith and find value and meaning and have faith that there is value and meaning, that everything that goes on. But there's another important lesson I want everyone to know. And that is that just like this grandfather made 2 pendants for his granddaughters, God gives each and every one of us a pendant. We each carry in ourselves a pendant that identifies who we truly are, that identifies not only who we are in the eyes of our Creator, but how we are connected to other people who carry that same pendant. And sometimes you don't know there's a connection. And sometimes you have no idea that you even have that treasure. And if you have that treasure, you have no idea what it really is. But you have that treasure. And if you hold on to it, that pendant, that value, that purpose that God has given you, and you start to find that purpose will not only enhance your relationship with your Creator, with God Almighty, but it will allow you to connect to others who have that same mission, who have that same purpose. And sooner rather than later, you'll realize that everyone has that pendant. Because every Jew and every human being was put in this world for a purpose. And the more we can find and live from the perspective of a purpose, the more connected we are with everybody, the more connected we are with others. So today, as the conflict within people starts to brew, should we go out? Shouldn't we go out? Should we relax the restrictions? Should we not relax? Are you crazy? Are you liberal? You're Republican. You support this person. You support that person. Stop it. Let's look at each other's pendants. Let's look at what connects us. Let's look at the special thing about the other person. And you will find such great comfort, such great inspiration that you're not alone even when you are alone. Because we all carry that divine purpose and that divine mission. And as we begin this week, it's Monday morning, 8:45. We have a long week ahead of us. A lot is going to happen. But look for the other person's pendant. Look for the other thing in the other person that connects you with them and connects you to something greater than yourselves. And you will find purpose, meaning, inspiration, drive, and energy to keep moving forward. Not while we wait to see what happens, because we will find meaning in what is happening now. I want to wish you a successful day, a successful week. We'll share another story on Wednesday at 8:30. Tuesday and Thursday, we will continue with Judaism's big ideas. And I want to invite you to please go on our website, virtualjewishcenter.org. There's so many classes, so many new things that are going on, new things that are taking place, hopefully things that will inspire, will motivate, and give us joy in these challenging times. For now, if anybody has a comment or question, I will try to entertain them. And if not, we will wish you well and have a wonderful day. I have looking here at the comments, looking for questions, a lot of nice comments, but any questions? Oh, I guess the message is pretty clear. So if the message is pretty clear, let's go use that. Let's go incorporate that into our life. And I want to wish you all well. So I